Thank you for joining today's webinar. You have Russell Robinson from Arum and Colin from Sigma to give you a little bit of background as to why we're here and what the content is. We recently completed a survey in collaboration with Sigma, where we went out to about 50 plus organisations across various continents and various sectors. We asked around about 30 questions to understand from organisations where they are in terms of their collections, voice strategies, and also their digital capability, and how those two topics are integrated or not, as a case may be for some. Off the back of that, we've produced a 50-page report, which we will distribute to you for joining today. If you stay until the end, that last bit's a joke, you will get the report, but hopefully you will stay till the end. And that report covers lots of detail, as I've said, 50 pages. But what we're going to do today is really cover 5 key takeaways and add a little bit more context to those in terms of what we've seen from working in the market. Please, as we go through, you should see a Q&A panel on the interface. Submit questions as we're going through today's session. We'll endeavour to get to those at the end. If we run out of time, which can sometimes happen, we will respond to those questions over email and make sure that everyone that attended also gets the answers, as opposed to a sort of one-to-one response. Just before we start, a little bit of background on myself. Russell Robinson at Arum. I'm the Director of Digital, so a little bit of background on me. I've been working in digital transformation for over 20 years. A lot of my work has really specialised in looking at the customer journey aspects of digital transformation. It's my belief that whatever you put in, unless you get the customer journeys and that design right, then you're not going to get the level of engagement and levels of automation that you're looking for. Arum as an organisation, we are a consulting business. We have just under 100 practitioners that work within the organisation. We work across many sectors, many countries, and we specialise in helping organisations deal with debt resolution, problem debt, whether it be looking at people, processes, technology, operations, digital, data. We work with organisations to help them assess where they are, develop roadmaps, integrate, implement new technology, and also measure performance. Colin, over to you.
Thanks, Russell. Hi, I'm Colin. I'm the Director of Financial Services at Sigma Connected. We're a provider of outsourced contact centre services, and we deliver customer experience across full life cycle, from customer acquisition and customer service through to collections, complaint handling, vulnerability support. We've got about 4,000 employees, operations in the UK, South Africa and Australia. We work across multiple sectors, including utilities, finance, telecoms, retail and government. Me personally, I've worked in financial services for about 30 years and held senior roles in collections and recoveries for about 15 of them. Previously worked in HBOS, Lloyds Banking Group, Arrow Global, most recently Nationwide Building Society, where I managed the outsourced panel in collections and recoveries. Been with Sigma a couple of months, so I'm still looking at this type of research through a bit of a lender lens, but it's been great to be involved with this piece of work and look forward to sharing a few snippets from the report with you guys today.
Brilliant, thanks a lot, Colin. So Key takeaway number one, I mentioned we were going to cover 5 in the time that we've got today. Number one kind of really focuses on the questions and the responses we got from the market around increasing use of digital, freeing up operational resource to have the conversations with humans that need to be had. When we asked respondents what level of automation they currently have in terms of self-service, we found that 50% of the market has around about 50% automation in terms of customer interactions. The other 50% dealt with manually through telephony operations. Those same respondents, interestingly, want to increase their self-service levels to 75% plus. I don't think that's surprising in terms of the fact that we're a lot of organisations being asked to do a lot more with a lot less with the current issues in the economy, and digital is clearly a way to help do more with less with digital channels. So it's a lot easier said than done, as I'm sure many of you will empathise with. I think when we look at kind of how organisations feel that they want to get to increased levels of self-service, if you look at the chart on the left, number one is automation of payment processing, taking payments. Second place is handling simple inquiries through digital self-serve. 3 is handling authentication. 4, managing affordability, and 5 is handling payment plans or forbearance on digital channels. They're all the sort of usual suspects that you would expect to see in digital transformation roadmap in collections. But to sort of step back and just look at kind of what's key to increasing levels of self-service outside of the sort of actual processes themselves, I think one area out of 3 is really understanding the customer needs, right? So yes, you want to automate payments, but as an example of one organisation that we spent some time with and worked with, they had a large number of telephony payments that were coming through to the operation, but through call listening, through looking at the data, talking with customers, talking with agents, we were able to understand that the reason why customers were calling in to make payments is because they didn't know their account number. They were essentially calling in to talk to an agent to find out their account number for their product that they wanted to pay, and then make the payment. So, that sort of understanding why people are calling in sometimes needs quite a bit of unpicking before you can design the right digital journey. Point 2, kind of usability design. Again, I'll talk about payments. I'll give you an example of organisations we've worked with around things that you would expect to be quite simple, like direct debit enrolment. We've found that many organisations have complexities around things like registering for direct debit, where you would have maybe up to 15 different steps or clicks in the journey to enrol for direct debit. You could be asked to enter over 10 pieces of information. You would think that maybe people would just need to put in their account number and sort code, but they're asked for a lot more in those journeys. Going through different pages to enrol for direct debit. Many organisations have 1,000, 1,500 words. A lot of those words are in legal speak rather than plain English, and if you've got which you will have a number of your customers where English is not their first language, it makes it ultra difficult to be able to go through the digital journey and enrol for direct debit. That's important because people remain then on manual paying channels. They have to remember to pay. In some cases, they forget to pay. They spend the money that they should have used for their bill, and then financial difficulties start. So getting seamless journeys for direct debit enrolment and auto pay are clearly important, but sometimes those things can be over-engineered. Understanding customer channels and preferences. There's been a lot of talk in the market around implementing multiple channels, so obviously using mobile apps, using web front ends, conversational messaging, all of which needs to be designed in the right way to get the kind of levels of engagement that you need. And then understanding customer preferences. If a customer interacts on WhatsApp, then clearly that would be the messaging channel going forward to interact with them, to help them manage payments, set up payment plans, whatever they would need to do. Switching gears a bit, we've got kind of over on the left the graph of what people want to automate. If I just touch on what organisations are essentially not looking to automate, and I'll just pick out one from this list, which is the vulnerability, identifying vulnerability, which is the orange bar at 20%. We feel this is an important point to raise. Recent research from the FCA talks to something like 30 million UK adults are showing characteristics of vulnerability. I think where 20% are looking to identify vulnerability on digital channels, that may mean that 80% of you are looking to identify vulnerability on voice. This could be a miss, because a lot of people that may be vulnerable, they may not be comfortable with discussing mental health issues with a stranger over the phone at a financial institution. They may not want to talk about thoughts of suicide or other things that are personal to them. And very much like we've seen with things like digital affordability, income and expenditure in the market, and significant levels of customer adoption, 60, 70, 80% of customers completing I&E processes through a digital front end. Much can be the same, could be the same for identifying vulnerability. For an example, an organisation called Tell Joe is doing some interesting stuff in this space in the local government market. And we like to look at it in terms of identifying vulnerability. That can be done through digital channels, helping people engage through anonymous, discrete channels like they've done with income and expenditure. But once that vulnerability is crystallised and you understand the customer is vulnerable, it's then important to have that handover to voice, where we know that voice conversations are more effective in terms of helping those vulnerable customers get to the right outcomes. And this topic is sort of perfect for the survey that we put together around voice and digital channels working together. And I think vulnerability is a really great candidate for that. Colin, over to you. I think I've covered enough on takeaway one.
Thanks, Russell. I guess the second takeaway from the research is that firms have an opportunity, excuse me, to improve the way that they tailor communications towards customer preferences. So this part of the survey looked at customer channel preference, both the extent to which firms capture channel preference, but also the extent to which firms use that preferred channel in their communication strategies. So here we saw 69% of firms said they capture a preferred communication channel, but only 44% of them actually use that stated preference when building contact strategies. And I guess it stands to reason that customers are less likely to engage if they're not contacted on their channel of choice, and could result in the customer not engaging at all. Interestingly, there was only 9% of responders who said that their systems didn't allow for any capture of contact preference. But many of the other 91% who do capture the channel preference faced issues with fragmented data sets or as a result of siloed communication vendors. So most likely that's to do with issues with say, multiple product systems feeding into a main collections platform, or even where there exists a separate customer database, and not all of the channel preference information is passing through to the right place, or to the system being used by an agent or by the contact strategy itself. And then the other issue in terms of siloed communication vendors was really around where there are maybe separate processes for communication channels such as SMS or web chat, and perhaps those are held in a separate system from the main collection system. Also in the research that's in the paper but not shown here, we found that 72% of organisations don't change their channel strategy if there's no response from a customer on that particular channel. So they keep using the same channel even though there's never been any response via that particular channel, which we found was really interesting. But we also saw some great examples of organisations getting it right. But most notably, those organisations were using data or segmentation to determine the channel preference for outbound activity, and also some firms tailoring their messaging based on assumed channel preference. I think it's fair to say that advanced organisations are using segmentation and characteristics of the customer to alter the front end content and options presented to the customer. And then using champion challenge, a sort of test and learn approach to see which is most effective and just refine the whole approach. I think that's where the big opportunity here is, just in terms of the use of improved data and analytics. I think we saw that 85% of responders to this survey don't use any kind of segmentation to route or encourage customers to speak to an agent. And I think segmentation and analytics should be used as part of the contact strategy to route customers to specific voice or digital channels based on their preference or based on their circumstances or what it is they want to discuss. I know you touched on vulnerability earlier, Russell, and that would clearly be one of them. That was all on takeaway 2. I can say next slide, please. Thank you. So the third takeaway from the report was just around channel switching, and that firms should make it easier for customers to switch between channels. So 72% of responders provide customers with the ability to speak to an agent while they're engaged in a digital channel, with the other 28% not proactively promoting that option to speak to an agent during the whole digital process. And this can be frustrating for customers and removes the option for some customers to get the right outcome if they're not able to speak with an agent when they want to or when they need it most. So whilst 72% of firms are given the option to speak to an agent, only 27% of firms said it was easy for customers to do the reverse, i.e. For their customers to swap from a voice channel to digital. And I think given the appetite for and the advantages of digital channels, this is an area that would make sense to improve. If customers feel it's too long or difficult to get through to a company, or their preferred channel is not easily available to them, they'll lose opportunities for contact, which will negatively affect both collections and customer satisfaction. And then the other thing that we looked at in this section of the research was the type of customer query or interaction that firms felt were most suited to being handled by an agent, and they're on the third chart there. Not surprisingly, vulnerability was selected by the majority of responders as being most suited to voice, followed by complaints and queries or disputes. If I could have the next slide, that would be good. Thank you. So takeaway 4 in the report is just around voice strategies. So firms could do more to take advantages of the latest voice strategies. There is a lot more in this in the report, but I've just pulled out a couple of charts on this one. Firstly, looking at automated voice or call fronting, 42% of responders don't use any kind of call fronting or automated voice technology. So clearly there's an opportunity there to make collections operations more efficient by directing customers to the right area of support through that technology. And then secondly, we looked at the use of voice or speech analytics. So 2/3 of respondents, 65% of responders use it, mainly for quality assurance, with a further 31% in the survey indicating that they do intend to use it. And I think with consumer duty being focused on customer outcomes, the use of speech analytics to provide effectively 100% of call quality assurance, rather than the old model of X number of calls per agent per month, is really important. And I've also seen some really good examples of speech analytics being used, real time, for call monitoring and in-call kind of agent support and coaching. Not on the charts, but the other area we looked at in relation to voice strategies was outsourcing, both onshore and offshore, and it does appear underutilised as well. 38% of our responders told us that they partially outsourced their collections operation, but only 15% completely or mostly outsourced their collections operation. And when we look at offshoring, only 8% of organisations offshore any of their collections process, and that's actually a reduction compared to previous years, and most likely driven by increased regulation. And see how that changes over the next 6 to 12 months. I think we're going to see clearly we're going to see a big increase in financial and outsourcing, an overflow of operational support. It's not always as cut and dry as keep everything in-house or outsource it. Firms have to make a plug for Sigma, but firms like Sigma, can work in partnership with organisations to be that help to manage and demand quite considerably too. Again, beyond the call fronting, speech analytics and outsourcing, the report itself also promotes better use of other voice strategies, such as the use of geographical numbers to encourage call response, callback options, which still remain fairly limited, spoken IVR menus, and an inbound number capture, which are all options which can improve customer engagement. I'll hand back to you, Russell.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Colin. That was a lot of interesting data points there and comments, and clearly lots more in the report as well. So going on to key takeaway 5. So this is a topic of conversational AI. Could also be called chatbots. There are virtual assistants. There are different definitions, different arguments about the right terms. Personally, I prefer conversational AI. Where we went out to the market, we asked organisations from a conversational AI perspective. How many of you are using this type of technology within your collections operation? We found that 48% of organisations have responded positively that they're using this type of technology, and that is interesting to see, because we did a survey in the middle of 2021 where we asked similar questions around conversational AI, and at that point only about 30% of the organisations that responded were using it. So there appears to have been a big increase, which isn't surprising, given I think the opportunity in this area. In terms of how people are using the technology, over on the left you can see the channels that organisations are using. So email, web chat, and SMS are the three leaders in terms of messaging channels that are used, integrated to the conversational AI or the chatbot, where we ask questions around the capability that's being used. In some cases, there is a real conversational AI platform behind it. In some cases, there might be more of a rules-driven chatbot that is using kind of keyword recognition and basic kind of understanding of what customers are trying to say. So there are some variances in terms of the technology that's out there being used. Moving away from the sort of channels and what processes people are using. So over on the right, so 64% of organisations said that they've got high volumes of users that are requesting callbacks from the conversational AI. So that could lead us to believe that people aren't having their needs met when they're using conversational AI. Certainly from the research that we've done, the clients that we've worked with, that would seem to be the case. We've found a lot of conversational AI implementations or chatbots may do some basic level authentication and a few journeys, but there's certainly a lot more that can be done in that space to automate customer interactions. We also found that only 36% of organisations are offering the ability to do payment plan setup or forbearance on conversational AI. So clearly a big opportunity there in terms of, for example, enabling a customer to interact over messaging, authenticate themselves, maybe state that they're having some payment problems, and then use interactive messaging to then offer that customer different payment plans, different payment arrangements, and enable them to kind of action the setup of that through messaging and not need to do that on a web front end. And I think that probably leads me on to maybe to go back a step and say, well, why conversational AI? Why is interactive messaging important? I think, over the years, sort of bit of history, we probably remember everything was manual, and then all of a sudden, self-service, erupted, and it started with, structured web front ends, automated telephony with quite structured menu processes, and you have to sort of wait to the end to pick the option that you want, and so it goes on. And that can clearly be quite frustrating from a user perspective, especially where, if you go to any financial services organisation, services keep getting added and added and added to the web front end. So when you go in there, you've got a long menu, there's sub-menu topics, and it can be quite difficult to actually get to the bit that you want to get to, especially if you're trying to find collections or late payments areas. So conversational messaging is a very good way of letting customers get to where they need to get to really quickly by them using a kind of natural language message, which falls very nicely with the way that they communicate with friends and family today. We've certainly seen from organisations that are doing it right, that have implemented multiple channels, app, web, and conversational AI-based messaging, that the levels of self-service and the level of engagement that they get from customers are far higher than doing it without. I think some of the, it's not all rosy. Some of the pitfalls that we've seen, if you don't get the right level of automation or the right kind of intent management, identifying what people are trying to say over messaging, then that can then lead to a lot of those interactions needing to be fielded by the operations, essentially having IM conversations with thousands of customers. And if you launch these types of services, outbound campaigns driving customers to the conversational AI, and it doesn't have the right level of automation, what that can lead to, and we've seen examples of this, is where agents are typically overwhelmed with the number of concurrent chat conversations that they're having, and in some cases leading to quite poor outcomes where some of the services have needed to be shut down because of the issues related to the manual processing of two-way messaging. So in terms of going into this area, I think that the recommendation is very much around sort of treading lightly and thinking about those operational aspects. I'm really trying to design conversational AI so it's 90% automation, 10% manual intervention, which is possible. There are other sort of pitfalls around sessions timing out. In some cases, when you're using conversational AI on a web chat box, some of you may have experienced this, where you're waiting for an agent to answer, you open another tab, you multitask, go back, and the session has been ended. That can be quite frustrating. I think that's a really good example of how you can use, for example, two-way SMS alongside web chat, where I could start a conversation, I confirm I've got payment issues, I'm in the middle of setting up a payment plan over two-way text messaging, I go to school, I pick up the kids, I bring them back, later on I get back to my messages and I complete the setup of that payment plan over two-way SMS, because it's asynchronous, because that session is left open. So I think a lot of opportunity in that area. Recommendations we typically give are to push ahead with conversational AI. I mentioned around treading carefully. It's a very crowded market. We recently worked with an organisation, and we had to help with the vendor scoring and analysis of 20 plus conversational AI providers. That there are some common components that you need for conversational AI that a number of the leading players are doing really well. I think ensure personalization, make sure you've got authentication in place, understanding who the customer is, pulling entity extraction, so when customers will type in information, you're able to pull out certain data, bring that in, integrate it real time with the data you have on your system, use that within the conversational design, and have a conversation with the customer about information they've just submitted, so it feels very fluid and natural. And then from an architecture perspective, making sure that when you implement a conversational AI platform, that it is controlling the various communication channels that you have. So the same conversational AI platform should be driving your automated voice, your WhatsApp channel, your SMS channel, and so on, as opposed to having some rules-based SMS over here and then conversational AI over here, and these channels aren't particularly well joined up. I won't cover any more on conversational AI, although happy to do that separately if you want to reach out. I'll talk through, finally, just to give you a recap of the 5 takeaways. So, increase use of digital and free app agents, tailor comms to meet customer preferences, allow customers to switch between channels, take advantage of the latest voice strategies, and make use of automated chatbots, go conversational AI. There is no end of technology that's available out there to do a number of these things from 1 to 5. Obviously, within our report, we've covered way more. So when you get that, please take some time to read through it. I think at this point, we'll probably just recap again. Russell Robinson from Arum. Appreciate you taking the time to listen today. We work with a number of organisations helping complete digital assessments, understand where you are in terms of digital across 20 different measures. Conversational AI, web front ends being two of those. We help organisations define, we validate roadmaps. We help look at the technology market, help complete vendor assessment and scoring, help with customer journey design. We've even helped organisations develop the intents on their chatbots, on their technology, and also helped design the actual conversational design within those platforms for collections. And then we also help with digital delivery, be that helping bring technology vendors to bear for implementation and providing resources to support that implementation and do digital faster. Colin, over to you.
Thanks, Russell. I mean, from a Sigma Connected point of view, I mean, clearly we specialise in voice, but at the same time, we don't turn a blind eye to the digital technologies that help make our clients' collections processes more efficient, and we invest in those ourselves. Businesses want to use digital channels to save cost, make processes more efficient, and also give customers choice. Choice of not having to interact with a real person if they don't want to. We talk a lot about splitting transactions versus complex and non-complex. Allow the customer to make less complex transactions digitally and the complex ones, through to a skilled agent. And I think that's fine, but ultimately the customer will decide, how they want to interact for different purposes, and particularly in situations where, a degree of empathy is needed that a human can give that a digital solution can't. Sometimes customers just want to talk to a real person. And I think we need to always be able to give that option. So I think no matter how much organisations try and automate things, there'll always be a place for skilled agents. And particularly with what we're facing into in the next few months within the collection space, where a lot of difficult conversations will probably be had. I mean, to sum up, I'd say whatever business you're in, to work towards that true omni-channel environment, organisations need to find the right balance between digital and voice. Recognise customers' communication preferences and give them the option to switch between channels as they want.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Colin. We're just about out of time now. Again, thank you very much for joining today's session. We will send out a follow-up email off the back of this. You will get the report, and please reach out to us if we can help you with any of the topics or others we talked through today. And enjoy the football if you're watching it. Thank you.